The protagonist of the movie is a dashing man who is adored and lusted upon by all the women he meets. They are especially impressed by the wisdom he possesses, despite being a 20-year-old. That's what they want, his wisdom. However, little did they know that this man is actually 75. Due to a rare disorder, he was born an old man and is going to die as an infant. The opening scene is set in a hospital room in New Orleans where Daisy, an elderly woman, lies on her deathbed with her daughter Caroline by her side. The city braces for a deadly hurricane, so to pass the time, Daisy begins narrating a story. She talks about a blind clockworker named Mr. Gateau, who was commissioned to build a clock for a train station in 1918. However, instead of creating a standard clock, he chose to modify it to run backwards, a decision that puzzled his patrons and colleagues alike. Daisy reveals that Mr. Gateau did this in commemoration of all the soldiers who lost their lives during the First World War, including his son, wishing that the backwards clock would turn back time. Afterwards, Daisy instructs Caroline to fetch a diary from her bag and read it out loud. When the latter obliges, the movie cuts to the evening of November 11th, 1918, where the roads are filled with people celebrating the end of the First World War. Amidst the crowd, a wealthy businessman named Thomas Button rushes home as his wife is in labor. However, when he arrives, the smile on his face is quickly wiped off. It turns out the pregnancy has taken a fatal toll on his wife, and she is in her final moments. Before she passes away, she asks him to show love and affection to their son. A devastated Thomas then leans over the crib to see his newborn baby, only to be filled with disgust as the child is deformed. Not wanting to raise him, he abruptly takes the child and runs to the nearby lake, intending to drown him. However, Thomas is spotted by a guard from afar, prompting him to run away. Once he reaches an alleyway, he places some money inside the infant's swaddle before abandoning him on the porch of a nursing home. Shortly after, a caretaker named Queenie and her husband Tizzy exit the house. As soon as they spot the deformed baby, they gasp in horror. Tizzy asserts that they should abandon the baby, as he is not their responsibility, but Queenie, driven by her compassionate nature, refuses to leave the helpless infant on the doorstep. It may look like Gollum now, but it might be Brad Pitt someday. So, without any hesitation, she scoops up the baby and takes him inside, declaring that he is also one of God's children. Then, a doctor is called to the nursing home, and after a thorough examination, it is concluded that the baby has all the symptoms and diseases of an old man, rather than that of a newborn child. Despite this, Queenie decides to raise the child as her own. She welcomes him into her home and introduces him to the elderly people living there, giving him the name Benjamin. As the years pass by, Benjamin physically fits in with the aged people, while still having the mind and curiosities of a child. He cannot move his legs and sits in a wheelchair like all of the other old people around him. Queenie and Tizzy continue to care for him, providing a loving and nurturing environment that allows him to thrive. One day, Queenie takes Benjamin to a church service in the hopes that he may be healed by God. Here, it is revealed that Queenie is infertile and that her adoption of Benjamin was her way of starting a family. Soon, the preacher delivers his sermon and asks Benjamin to rise out of his wheelchair as a testament to God's power. The little boy struggles to stand, but with everyone's encouragement, he eventually walks for the first time. Unfortunately, when the preacher approaches Benjamin to congratulate him, he suddenly falls to the ground and dies of cardiac arrest. As the movie progresses, Benjamin narrates about how growing up in the nursing home was fulfilling, as there were regular visits from people all around the world. One day, he strikes up a friendship with an African guy named Oti, who has come to visit the nursing home. Despite their vastly different backgrounds and life experiences, they quickly bond over their shared curiosity and sense of adventure. One day, Oti takes Benjamin out of the nursing home for the first time, and they board a train together. Benjamin is exhilarated by the experience, relishing the sights, sounds, and smells of the world outside his familiar surroundings. The two spend the day together, exploring the city and experiencing new things. But when it turns dark, Oti leaves Benjamin, thinking that he can find his own way home. The latter also doesn't say a word, perhaps because he wants to break free from his supposed deformity and live life as a normal human. As night falls, Benjamin finds himself alone in an unfamiliar city, determined to make his way back home. Despite his physical limitations, he perseveres, pushing himself to the limit as he navigates the dark streets and alleys. Finally, after hours of walking, he manages to reach the nursing home. Queenie scolds him harshly for his negligence, but Benjamin narrates that this was one of the best days of his life. One Sunday, an elderly woman introduces Benjamin to her granddaughter, who is revealed to be a young Daisy. Benjamin instantly falls in love with her, and the two connect with each other. The same evening, Queenie tells everyone that God has listened to her prayers because she is finally going to have a child. Hearing her announcement, everyone cheers with excitement. In the next scene, as Daisy and Benjamin are playing with each other, the latter reveals that he isn't as old as he looks. He is actually a kid who is the face of an elderly man. Take note, boomers. This is a can't-miss strategy. Suddenly, Daisy's grandmother catches them playing and starts shouting. She then takes the girl away, but not before warning Benjamin to stay away from her. A few months later, Benjamin visits the nearby port, as he is now capable of moving without much difficulty. It's almost as if time is running backwards for him, just like Mr. Gatteau's clock. At the port, a tugboat captain, Mike, announces that he needs a worker for his boat. Benjamin, who wants to try something new, volunteers and is immediately hired. Oddly enough, he enjoys working in the sea and grows closer to the captain, Mike. One day, the latter finds out that Benjamin is still a virgin, so he takes him to a brothel and lets him do it for the first time. Ooh, baby! Later, while walking home, Benjamin's biological father, Thomas, approaches him and offers to give him a ride. Not knowing the actual truth, Benjamin happily obliges and joins the man. The two then enter a bar where they share drinks and talk about their lives. Afterwards, Thomas drops him off at the nursing home and asks Benjamin if they can meet from time to time. The naive teenager, who hasn't had a friend all his life, happily agrees. After a few weeks, Daisy returns to the nursing home, and Benjamin takes her on a ride on his tugboat. Okay. They thoroughly enjoy the experience and become close to one another. Unfortunately, some days later, one of the elderly women in the nursing home passes away, leaving Benjamin devastated. He finally accepts that he is different from others and life for him is challenging. So, he decides to move out of the nursing home to travel the world with Mike. His parents are distraught to see him leave, but nonetheless, they support his decision. Before Benjamin departs, Daisy asks him to send her a postcard from every place he visits. Over the years, Benjamin mysteriously gets younger, but he keeps sending postcards to Daisy. She also makes sure to send a letter back, and Benjamin learns that she has been accepted into a ballet company in New York City. One day in 1941, Benjamin and his crew members stop in Murmansk and stay in a hotel. There, he becomes smitten by a woman named Elizabeth. The same night, Benjamin has trouble sleeping, so he heads down to the lobby to catch some fresh air. To his luck, he finds Elizabeth, and the two strike up a conversation. From then on, the two start an affair and meet in the hotel lobby every night. Benjamin becomes so infatuated by her that he discloses his affair to Daisy, breaking her heart.
Sending you a postcard from inside my girlfriend's panties, Daisy.
But one day, Elizabeth suddenly disappears from the hotel. All she left for him is a note, which says, "It was nice meeting you." The following day, America enters World War II, and Mike volunteers for the Navy service. So, the tugboat crew is assigned to salvage duties out in the sea. While preparing for salvage, they find a nearby sunken U.S. transport and thousands of dead American troops floating on the surface of the water, much to Benjamin's horror. As the crew contemplates on what to do next, a German submarine suddenly shows up and fires on the tugboat. Captain Mike rams the submarine in an act of desperation, but this turns out to be a fatal decision. A huge explosion ensues which sinks both the boats, resulting in the deaths of all the crew members, except for Benjamin and another guy. They are rescued the following day by another crew. After the war, in May of 1945, Benjamin returns home and reunites with Queenie, who is amazed to see his youthful appearance. However, it is revealed that Tizzy passed away last year due to old age. The following day, Daisy visits the nursing home and reconnects with Benjamin. The two go out for dinner and have a lovely time there. However, when Daisy tries to seduce him, Benjamin adamantly rejects her and leaves. The next day, Thomas pays Benjamin a visit and finally discloses the actual truth. He says that he has regretted deserting his son all his life, but now he wants to make amends. Hearing all this, Benjamin is taken aback, but before he can inquire any further, Thomas reveals that he is dying of an illness. After a while, he takes Benjamin to his button factory, where he reveals more details about their family. He also shows pictures of his wife, leaving the boys stunned, not knowing what to say. Benjamin storms out of the house, but later comes back and takes his dad to a lake to witness the sunrise. Thomas dies peacefully, leaving his button manufacturing company and all his wealth to his son.
No, but what if I don't like buttons, Daddy?
One day, Benjamin visits New York and goes to watch Daisy's ballet show, unannounced. He spots her backstage, but eventually departs upon seeing that she is romantically involved with someone else. Benjamin gets younger and more handsome over the years and spends most of his time traveling on his bike and fixing up the nursing home. One day, he receives a letter from one of Daisy's friends and heads to Paris to visit her. It's revealed that she has been hospitalized after getting hit by a taxi, resulting in the end of her ballet career. When Daisy finally meets Benjamin, she is amazed by his young appearance. However, she is also frustrated by her injuries, so she rudely tells him to stay out of her life. Benjamin copes with this heartbreak by seeing multiple girls at once and having temporary relationships with them throughout the years. Sounds about right. However, all this changes when Daisy returns to New Orleans and reunites with him. This time, they settle their differences and finally begin their affair. They spend the years traveling around the world, making love in different places. The two eventually return to the nursing home, where they learn that Queenie has passed away. This news takes a toll on Benjamin's psyche, but he moves on quietly. Soon, he begins to contemplate his future with Daisy, as he gets younger every day while she is already showing signs of old age. It's already kind of weird, and it's gonna be illegal soon. After Queenie's death, the couple moves in together in a duplex, and Daisy opens up a ballet studio. Life seems to be going in the right direction, and one day, she reveals that she is pregnant. Although this is excellent news, Benjamin starts worrying even more. He constantly dwells on the possibility that the child will have to grow up without a father, but Daisy reassures him that she will take care of both of them. And 9 months later, she gives birth to a perfect baby girl, and they name her Caroline. The movie then cuts to the present, where an adult Caroline is furious with her mother for hiding all of this, but nonetheless, she continues reading the diary. One day, believing he cannot be a proper father due to his reverse aging, Benjamin sells all of his assets and leaves the money for Daisy and Caroline before leaving to travel alone. He spends the subsequent years staying in different places around the world, while looking younger and more handsome. After 10 long years, Benjamin finally returns and meets Daisy in the ballet studio, who is shocked to see him so young. It turns out she has married a responsible man, and when Benjamin learns of this, he is relieved. Later that night, the two meet in a hotel room and have coitus one last time before parting again. Several years later, an old and widowed Daisy receives a call from Child Services, and as soon as she hangs up, she rushes to the nursing home. On reaching it, the officials explain that they had found Benjamin living inside a condemned building, and that his diary had her name written on it. When Daisy finally meets him, she is taken aback to see him turn into a teenager. However, despite his youthful state, Benjamin has the mind of an elderly man. He has dementia, so he can no longer remember Daisy. Regardless, she moves into the nursing home to help him live out the rest of his life. As the years pass, Benjamin slowly regresses into infancy. In the year 2002, the government replaces Mr. Gatto's backwards clock from the train station and installs a proper one. Sadly, in the spring of 2003, Benjamin, who is physically a newborn baby, but in reality has lived for 84 years, dies in Daisy's arms. In the present, an adult Caroline finishes reading the diary with tears in her eyes. The thought of her dad as a dementia baby is just so damn terrifying. At the same time, the hurricane approaches the city, so she rushes outside to help the others. After she is gone, an old and weak Daisy dies peacefully, still remembering her one and only love, Benjamin. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.